whether the bill should in fact be passed.
Dr. the Honourable Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, I want to compliment David Parker, Eugenie Sage and also Dennis O'Rourke on those thoughtful contributions on this bill. I also want to compliment Jackie Dean, the sponsor of this bill. Jackie Dean, in my view, is one of the most activist local members of Parliament that we have in the Parliament. She's done some magnificent work in terms of the Twilight Reserve in the Mackenzie country that was announced earlier this week. There's the Mackenzie Futures Trust, of which she has been the flag bearer for, as well as initiatives such as this bill. And also I'd note her bill in respect of alcohol laws and trying to get, Easter trading and the exemptions that she's trying to get for her community. She is a very effective Member of Parliament for Waitaki. I want to make 3 points about this bill. The first of those is that it's interesting when one of the really hot bills of the week is about being able to sell assets and buy others in the form of the mixed ownership bill that I think Mr Speaker will be debating tomorrow, is that there's a pretty strong consensus within the Parliament that's actually really sensible for public entities, whether they be councils, to sell some land and to use that asset to do other things. In this case, the members promoted the view that this 10 hectares of land, could quite suitably be sold, and that money should be used to fund things like the Opera House in Oamaru, a magnificent building and actually a project that Jackie Dean worked on as the Deputy Mayor of that community of Oamaru. And I just have to ask the question to members opposite. Where's all the rhetoric about no asset sales? I thought asset sales were the end of the world. I keep seeing these brochures everywhere. Labour stands, New Zealand First stands, Greens stand for absolutely no asset sales. And yet we have a bill here that is to facilitate the sale of land to allow communities to be able to rejig their capital balance sheet and use these assets that might have been appropriate in the 19th century to be owned by a public entity, but actually being subdivided and selling the land and putting that asset into other things is perfectly logical. And I just challenge members opposite. If the logic applies to councils being able to sell these 3 blocks of land and use those money for other assets, isn't that exactly what this government is doing tomorrow with the mixed ownership bill? And I'm just hoping that Eugenie Sage and Dennis O'Rourke and David Parker will reflect on the sensible speeches that they've given this evening and will make sure that they do so the same tomorrow. The second point that I want to make is I actually think in the debate about local government, I've been fascinated when we debated the bill yesterday that members are saying we should give local communities more say over their future. Local democracy is what it's all about. Well, if we have local democracy, shouldn't councils be able to rejig the mix of land and reserves that they have in their communities so that they work best for the area? I actually think it is horribly bureaucratic in the way in which the reality was that many of our reserves and blocks of lands that were set aside for the needs of communities 100 years ago. You know, those smattering of little reserves that get negligible use. It would actually be really sensible for us to give councils more flexibility, more local democracy, to be able to make decisions on blocks of land likes of this, rather than really, Mr Speaker, we should be reflecting on why it is that requires a Bill of Parliament for the local Waitaki Council to change the status of 10 hectares of land. You know, shouldn't we as parliamentarians really be reflecting on whether our laws actually do give local democracy and do let councils make a say about their areas of land and how they might be more usefully used for communities as they manage their assets. Mr Speaker, I'm a member of the Local Government and Environment Select Committee. I'm going to look forward to hearing the community on this bill, and I really do encourage this House around those issues of local democracy, sensible utilisation of communities' assets. Rationalisation is really good, sensible policy being promoted here by Jackie Dean, and I just hope the consensus that the Parliament can find on this bill can be fined on other bills because it is good, sensible policy.
David Clark.
Mr. Speaker, I think that member